Great to have you here.
I had decided I wanted to get into events.
Don't rush into anything.
Left university and pretty much went straight into it.
It's just got to happen. So do what you need to make it happen.
I've never been one to follow rules.
We've spent a lot of time together, haven't
Yes,
we?
we have.
Always keeping up with trends and fads.
How do you manage that, the expectations versus the reality of budgeting?
It's always insightful to get a gauge as to what their reference point is with budget.
Pre-COVID, I didn't know what Zoom was.
You know, everything is done to a higher level.
That detail Jeremy and the band and the guys will go into, by definition, makes our life easier.
There's levels, and that comes in the detail. Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Secret World of Events. Joining me today are two giants of the event space. I have the co-founders of Just 70, Stas Anastasiou and Laurie Stas. When we think creative, from my perspective, I think of Just 70. You guys have produced some of the most creative events I've been lucky to be part of. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gav. Thanks for having us.
Guys, I'm going to ask the question because I've been asking it of everybody, but Just 70, where does that come from?
Okay, so when we set up the company, we wanted to be called 70 because the word event is within the word 70, and that was the aim. And we were like, oh, we love this name. We want to be called 70. And then it all happened quite quickly. We contracted a job within like a week, and we weren't up and running as a company yet. And I think we went to buy 70 domain or get it registered with Company's House or something along them lines. And it'd been taken. So I think we went to Nando's that evening. We were like, we want to be called 70. But it's taken, and we were like, it's so annoying, so frustrating. The client wants to send us a check, the days of checks, and what we're going to do. So I think we ended up having a few drinks, and we said, why don't we just call ourselves Just 70? Let's just get the money in the bank. Let's just get the money in the bank.
That's it.
Call ourselves Just 70.
So it was Just 70, so you could bank the check.
Bank the check, basically.
Perfect.
But yeah, and then we've just run with Just 70. And
So Just 70, I mean, I know how long it's been going, but Laurie, how old are you now?
40.
No, Laurie, you're not 40. Are you 40?
Yeah.
Yeah. Laurie, Just 70?
12 years.
12 years. 12 easy years.
Well, I don't know about easy. I don't know about easy. Roller coaster ride.
Roller coasters. Now, both your backgrounds have been in events prior. Laurie, perhaps tell us where it all began for you.
I started probably when I was about 16 DJing, and then it sort of grew to not just being a DJ to booking some lighting and some entertainment, and then I worked around the industry for various people, doing different roles, production, event management, both things, and then met Stas in our previous employment. And then
Which was where?
Banana Split.
Because, funnily enough, a lot of guests come on. It's like a nice sort of, breeding ground for the event staff.
Good stable.
Yeah.
Good stable. Stas, for you, you're a little bit different because a lot of guests come on, start with DJing, funnily, when they get into events, but you didn't, did you?
No, I was doing events at uni. And I was studying set design at university, and it was something I'd always wanted to get into. So whilst studying at uni, doing my degree, we were doing events, and we were running club nights and student union nights and all the usual kind of fun things that you do at uni. And that was in Nottingham. And when I came back to London, I continued working in events and a bit of TV production at the same time.
So both you guys met at
Banana Split, yeah. So I joined in 2003, and I think we met in about 2007. And we just kind of got on, and eventually, when we both left, we ended up just like kind of working together, and
Sure.
Just 70 kind of was born.
The title for today's show is Being Creative, and I would say out of a lot of the planners that I'm very fortunate to work with, I absolutely rate you two. There was never going to be an episode of The Secret World of Events without you two on.
Thanks.
I know it's been quite hard to sort of nail you down for a show and a time, but being creative, because you two boys, and actually across your team as well, because there isn't just you two, unbelievably creative. And we're going to take a little walk through some of the events, not just that I've done with you, but across the board. Where does that sense of creativity come from? Where does it start from with both of you?
That's a great question. I think we're both quite creative individuals, and I think we're really fortunate. We've got really great clients that come to us with like amazing briefs, and we're usually able to like extract what the client really wants and bring that brief to life.
We're going to take a look at one of these briefs while we go.
Milo's Palm. Yeah,
so
we love this.
This was
epic.
Epic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, whilst we chat here, I'm going to actually just roll. It's a silent little trailer, but it just shows. It's just 2015. I can't believe it's nearly 8 years ago.
Do you know what the really funny thing is that we're watching this? We're actually planning his 21st.
Are you really?
In Verbier in January. Can't believe it.
Wow.
I don't know where the time's gone, but this was fun, Gav, wasn't it? We had loads
So
of fun.
what was the brief when the client came to you? They said it's a bar mitzvah.
It was a bar mitzvah, and he said, I want something different, edgy,
Well, before he said that, he wanted a normal party. And then he changed the brief, didn't he? He said, give me an A and a B.
Did he?
He said, give me an A and a B.
Stas, to be fair, it was 8 years ago. You're entitled not to remember.
Yeah,
He said, give me an A and a B. A was a normal party and the B was the edgy. And he went with
Oh,
the
yeah,
edgy.
you're right. Yeah,
He said, give me an A and a B.
And we put ideas for both. We put ideas and budgets for both. And then we ended up going down the creative route.
So essentially, this is Claridge's prior to its change of look. And what are the guys doing here? They're building a circus rig.
We're building a circus rig. So we designed a party that was like a joyous cabaret of burlesque acts and comedy and entertainment. It was really different. We built a circular stage in the middle of Claridge's, and we changed the flooring levels, so everything was on tiered levels around the circular stage.
I'm just going to interrupt to say that where this party really differed for me was obviously the brief must have included, I'm not necessarily interested that much in dancing, perhaps,
Correct.
as opposed to having a very high-class dinner with cabaret entertainment, because it was completely bespoke, completely different.
Yeah, it was completely different. We had no dancing, so we were really lucky. We brought in La Soirée, the burlesque show, and they just won a Laurence Olivier Award that week. So we were super, super lucky to have them on board. And there was a real buzz about them at the time. And the guys are brilliant, and they do something completely different.
Look at that room; it's absolutely sensational.
It was
isn't
like a Spiegel tent vibe, and actually the weight loading of the ballroom had to have a structural engineer because we put so much deck in to create the multiple levels for dinner. You can see all the treads with the LED there.
Who did the flowers there?
Simon.
Yeah.
Brilliant job. And we custom made that LED, which I think he still has in his bedroom, actually, I think he was saying. But it was really special. So we had no dancing. So we had loads of different acts taking place in between all the different courses.
Some speeches.
Yeah.
I do remember some of the acts.
Yeah. My favourite
Quirky didn't quite cover it. It was
favourite was
unbelievable.
Bath Boy, David Omer, who, the English gentlemen were amazing.
Oh, so Bath Boy is here.
This is this is phenomenal. So
Who we actually had to fly from Australia or somewhere. We weren't going to get him. We couldn't get him at first. Couldn't get him.
And essentially, describe what he did. He swung.
So they had no rigging at Claridge's, so that's why we designed this whole structure. And he was swinging in and out of a bath. But the great thing about it, if you look at the picture, he squirts water and sprays water on the front row.
There's a
of the
splash
guests.
zone, isn't there?
There's a splash zone. So we gave plastic sheets to everyone, if you can look clearly. And everyone on that row put like plastic sheets on so they wouldn't get wet. I think the women all went wild for him because he's
Well, he was a little bit hot.
He's a bit hot, and it's all part of their show. It's all a bit saucy. It's all a bit edgy. And it was just completely different, completely unique. I think all of us really love that.
When clients come to you, it's a question I'm asking everybody on the series because these parties don't come with no budget, and obviously all clients have varying budgets. How important is it to sort of discover budgets from the outset to know where you need to be?
Yeah, I think in those initial conversations, if they haven't done a party, it's always insightful to get a gauge as to what their reference point is with budget, because that will determine how wide the scope of creativity can be, I think.
Stas, for you?
I think it's really important to have a budget at the beginning, so you kind of know what level of creativity and what ideas and what entertainment, even what venues you can bring to the table.
I mean, creativity doesn't necessarily come just with the natural following of money, because you can come up with creative ideas that cost very little.
Definitely.
So let's just put that out there. It's not all about the money, but
completely.
with something like that,
Something like
clearly,
that, of course.
You've got someone who's going to be very generous with what they need to spend. But how do you sort of, how do you manage the expectations of what? Because a lot of clients come to you and come to us, and they have no idea or appreciation of how much time goes into an event. Because I feel like, and I think I've said it on a previous episode, if we were lawyers and we were by the hour. It's how much work goes in behind.
I would have
the scenes.
retired by now.
Yeah, you would have retired at 40. There you go. The amount of effort that goes in. But clients come generally with very little idea other than maybe a figure in mind that they want to spend and no idea how to fit everything into that box.
Yeah, or how to break it down.
How do you work with
That's
clients
where
on
we
that?
start. We kind of like try to break everything down and into smaller pieces. Because if it's like a loaf of bread, you've got to break it down, slice it up, and then apportion different pieces to the venue, to entertainment, to food and catering. But what's really important is to find, for us, is what's really important for the client, and then align that with the budget. Because some people, it's all about the music and the dancing, and some people it's all about the food and the wine. So everyone has a different kind of importance when they're planning the party, and it's really important for us to align that budget was what's really important with them, plus making sure that we have all the other sprinkles and ingredients to make it a really fun party. So it's about balancing a few different things.
When you're finding the creativity, Laurie, you sit down with the client at an initial meeting. How do you sort of see to gain the ideas of where we're going with this?
I think we ask a lot of discovery questions, like if it's their son or daughter's bat mitzvah, what are their hobbies, if it's a 40th or a 50th, what's their favourite restaurant or holiday location, or favourite film or favourite TV programme, and we sort of plug into those things, and eventually you can sometimes fuse some stuff together.
Talking about favourite TV programmes, this is one we did. I mean, this wasn't one on the list that you gave me.
But this was iconic.
This
is
is brilliant.
groundbreaking.
If I feel of all the events I've done with you, and I think how different they are from ski chalets in Verbier to this, where you basically recreated the Late Late Show, the James Corden show, and it became Josh's Late Late Show.
This was a brave client.
Very brave.
Brave client who, this was their second bar or bat mitzvah. They trusted us.
I love this. This was his entrance.
Yeah, this was so fun.
A bit of a spoof parody there.
Spoof parody on the carpool karaoke that James Corden does. I mean, look at the dance floor and the production on the lighting is incredible. But what made this extremely special for me was where you guys went creatively with content of the night in terms of the speeches. Perhaps, Laurie, tell us.
We just basically ran the whole night like a TV studio chat show. And for us, to be able to take it that immersive and engage the guests and create an audience and make them, we had a show caller standing on the table and reception telling everyone they're going to a live event space, a live studio space. And I think when you're bringing all those layers in, with even with the staff wearing t-shirts and saying producer and crew on the back, all of that stuff, all those details, it really adds to the theatre. And obviously having a presenter like Craig on comms.
That's Craig Stevens, wasn't it?
Stevens is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think all of those little details.
All those details. And everyone was in head comms. So it really felt, it kind of, we take elements of like Secret Cinema, which we use, which I think them guys are brilliant. But like when you go to a Secret Cinema, it feels everyone's in character. And we tried to do that when we did the Late Late Show, is that we really wanted everyone to feel like they were in a real TV show.
Just to give the viewers a bit of colour on when Laurie says immersive event. So to give you an idea, instead of there being a best friend's speech where the kids just get up naturally and give a speech, they had Craig Stevens, who was our James Corden, and he would interview the kids, having a brief of questions. He'd interview the kids live on a studio set of the couches with the Late Late Show mugs down. So it was really, on point in terms of detail.
But doing that chat show speech setup, the children have kind of not written a speech, but they've read the speech. They know the questions. So it is like they're delivering a speech, but they're not delivering it because it's organic and it's much more interesting for the audience.
Yeah. And that is why the creative word with me and synonymous with you guys, it's just at the very forefront. Just flicking through a sort of a couple of other, obviously that's still Milo's, that's some of the events you spoke of. Even when it comes down to weddings, okay, it's childish for me to call it iconic, but amongst my portfolio of work, this wedding is still iconic.
Very.
For the reason you can see the very background of that shot. Stas, tell us all about this.
So this was really, really special. So I think this was probably this was like a first, I think. First for us, and maybe...
Definitely a first in the UK.
Probably. It was a floating chuppah, but...
So this was a wedding at Old Billingsgate.
This was a wedding at Old Billingsgate.
For Edward and Elizabeth.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really special wedding, and we carved up Old Billingsgate into different areas.
But it's the floating chuppah.
It's the floating chuppah that was really special. We managed to arrange a floating chuppah without the legs.
But we had two rabbis.
And Simon likes it again.
So we worked with Simon to design it.
We agreed it with one rabbi, and another rabbi turned up on the day and said, "Who's approved this?"
Oh, because the chuppah should have sides.
Well,
or
technically
legs.
it should have 4 legs,
Yeah.
but actually there's lots of rules in the Jewish religion that you don't have to have every checkpoint in a ceremony. So once the two rabbis spoke with each other, they were both happy that it didn't have any legs, and then it set a precedent for lots of other Jewish weddings afterwards who all imitated it.
This was a magnificent wedding, wasn't it?
It was really, really special. It was just like thousands of ribbons, and underneath, if you get a close-up, that's a great photo as well. There's like roses and crystals underneath the floating chuppah. But the beauty of it is that the chuppah was on a motor. So once the ceremony had finished, we then dropped the back of the motors and we brought the chuppah down, and then became the backdrop for the family photo.
Yeah,
so
look at that.
when you're looking at that photo, it's now at 45 degrees angle. And then there's some beautiful, beautiful shots of the family and the guys in front of that. Really, really, really stunning special chuppah. It's
Yeah, absolutely
one
gorgeous.
of my favourite chuppahs.
Another amazing, incredible, immersive event, BB13, which was Ben's bar mitzvah. This was at One Marylebone, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Also a number of years ago. But talk me through this event as well as I scroll through the pictures. What was the brief? What was the idea?
Wonderland. We called it Ben's Wonderland.
Yeah, it was Wonderland mixed with a little bit of funfair.
Fairground.
A fairground, touch of circus, and that's the swim and tonics are probably one of my favourite drinks that we've had on any party. So these
that shot,
I mean,
was also talked about for a very long time amongst all the kosher caterers as well.
Brilliant.
So that was from Food Story, wasn't it?
That
Back
was
in the
from
day.
Food Story back in the day, and they had these little plastic fishes that we put in these bags.
Yeah, for disclaimer, that's not a real fish.
Yeah.
But that was basically a gin and tonic, or called a swim and tonic.
Correct. Yeah.
Which comes back to another thing that I said a bit earlier, which is creativity doesn't necessarily come at a cost. It comes at the idea, because that is a plastic bag with a gin and tonic in and with a straw in.
It's just an idea, then executing the idea.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. The visuals, the colours. Where'd you come up with the thought process for that?
We all kind of all bounce around ideas. We usually get together in a room with the clients, Laurie and I and the rest of the team, and we all bounce around ideas and we try and understand what the client likes. I remember the guys are huge Spurs fans, which was also a theme in the party as well. So we also brought that in with the
That's
entrance
right.
as well.
Yeah, you had the gospel choir singing
exactly.
"My Eyes Have Seen the Glory" of the trophies of White Hart Lane. And also we made a video, didn't we? A Spurs video that actually went viral as well. It got put up by I think some channels on the internet, and all of a sudden we got a call saying the video has gone viral. It's had 1 million views and it's all over every channel. But that's amazing. What advice would you give clients in terms of planning events? Is there like 3 tips you would give clients?
Well, give yourself lots of time, ideally, to...
Because this doesn't come with a month to go.
No, ideally, if you want to do something creative and different and unique, ideally, you need a good preparation time so we can plan and prepare everything for you. But saying that, the industry has changed actually since COVID, so we're finding things are much more last minute. So we're having our turnaround's much more different in terms of we have less lead time. But ideally, if you have the time and you're a year out and you can, put the date in the diary and bring us in, that's wonderful. And then it gives us more time to prepare and design and bring creative ideas to the table. But the thing is, what we find is that over the planning of the party, trends and fads change, and we always need to keep up with that and bring that to the table to the client.
Yep.
Because what's really popular now in 12 months' time probably won't be that popular. So it's always keeping up with trends and fads and trying to bring that to the table.
Because there are those, Laurie, who are happy to sort of see events and go, that was great, we'll do that. And there are those who say, I've seen all the events and I just don't want to do any of that. So, but bringing those dreams to life is sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's stressful. But when it comes to the event itself, is there sort of, what we term event anxiety? Is that something you perhaps suffer from in the lead up to it?
I think you're relying on a team of artisans, vendors, people you're collaborating with. So there's always possibly a chink in the chain. But if you're working with good people, then it's always going to be sort of a seamless experience. But I think, there is an element of jitters and nerves always, because even when you get to the show or the event and you're actually in the ballroom or the studio or the marquee, not until everything's running and you've been driving that car or train for an hour, 2 hours, you don't really know. But if you've got good people around you, you can adapt if there's a problem. And that's the key thing. You need people who don't flap under pressure.
So we're going to talk about that. It's never going to be plain sailing. Things often go wrong behind the scenes. How do you guys cope with that?
I think contingency is good. So there's certain things you can't have a contingency for. Let's say if there's one elevator in the hotel, there's one elevator in the hotel and it goes down for the loading and the equipment. So then you just adapt. Or, I don't know.
We usually have plan A's and plan B's for most things in place. And I think one of the most important things is to have a strong team around you, people that you can rely on, people with experience and people that have been in difficult situations before, so they know how to react when something does occur. And I think that's really, really, really important. And that comes with experience and age, really.
Yeah, like the level of suppliers you work with will give you that experience and that comfort.
And that comes sometimes at a price.
Correct.
And I think what clients don't appreciate sometimes, especially on the planning side of things, is that you're buying the 25 years of knowledge of all the things that have gone wrong in the past to ensure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes explain that to client. I remember hearing once toing and froing with an event planner because they were having the client was having a marquee and just absolutely did not want to have a backup generator because he didn't understand why he'd have to pay twice for something, because it was explained to him what would happen if the generator goes down, and you're making contingencies. And what happened? He didn't have a backup generator, and unbelievably, the generator went only for about 10 minutes.
That's a classic one.
It is a classic.
It's common.
Yeah,
it's very common.
Yeah,
it's but good planners.
Good planners know what to do and what procedures need to be taking place before the party to eliminate any issues taking place. And that's what that's what you need to do, is try and eliminate any issues that may take place in the pre-production.
Simple things like spare napkins, spare tablecloths, not just having one or two, like having a couple in case the table configuration changes, or having some spare chairs because you might have some chairs that break during the Jewish dancing.
Is there any particular type of event that you prefer? That as a team, when you get that sort of call for that piece of work, you think that's us?
Me personally, I just love everything within the events industry, whether it's a private or a corporate. I just love everything. I ideally like it to be creative. So that could be anything. It could be a corporate creative party or Christmas party or a summer party, which we do. Or it could be like the wedding or 40th birthday, whatever it may be. So I don't know. I think we like most things, really. We just like to get our teeth stuck into
it's good to have a
projects.
challenge. It's good
we
to
like
be
to do,
challenged.
we like to be challenged, and our ethos is we try never to do two events identical. So we always trying to do a creative, bespoke event for whatever the party may be.
I always say to clients, anyone can book a chair, anyone can book a florist, anyone can book a caterer. It's how you bring those elements together in harmony and deliver something special on budget and without any hiccups.
Yeah. Let's flick through another one of these pictures there. There's Ben flying on the flag. Talk to me about this. It's a recent event for you guys.
This was just 6, 7, 8 weeks ago.
Where is this?
This is in Florence.
So this was a wedding you guys planned?
This is a wedding, actually, at Villa Palmieri in Florence. And the thing about this is that the client actually came to us 10 years ago, actually, to plan their son's bar mitzvah, which we did at Claridge's. And it was just a really fabulous party, and we've stayed in contact since. And fast forward 10 years later, they've come back to us to plan their daughter's wedding. So it was a really special 3-day party.
Now, this just links back to something we spoke about before, which was like things that can go wrong and potential disasters. Because although I was nowhere near involved in this event at all, in fact, my daughter was a guest here, but I know from speaking to you guys, something did go wrong with a very short space of time to go. Tell us about that and how you cope with it.
Go on, Laurie, I'll let you.
We had a venue booked, conservatory in Florence, very old listed building, and there was a storm, major storms in Florence, and a tree fell through.
9 days before.
So 9 days before a wedding abroad.
And everything been organised, logistics, planned, design.
We were ready.
Everything.
We were in the home straight. We were like, pack our bags and get on the plane.
A tree fell through the listed building.
350-year-old building.
And the woman from the venue emailed. I took the call because I've been dealing with her throughout this process. She come up with an alternative solution. She wasn't sure if the bureaucracy could fix it in time because Italy, it's all a bit fussy. And we looked at lots of options, and then we had to call the client. And then we called the client, told him it was a bit of a curveball. He says, more than a curveball, Laurie.
Yeah.
I said, well, we'll figure it out. And then we got to work, and we looked at all the old venues that we didn't contract. Some were available, some weren't. And luckily, the venue that we eventually found, the caterer.
We had to fly out the next day. We found that thing on the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday, we jumped on a plane with the clients. And when I had a look at some different venues, and then by the Thursday, the week before, we were already planning and designing.
Basically, the new venue was about to have a refurb,
right?
So they paused it for us, and they said, "We'll stop our refurb if you pay the deposit today."
And of course, the story would probably transpire after that the venue they were supposed to go to, but the guests were none the wiser.
I think we were lucky because the party was actually, I think we're all in agreement, us, the families. The Friday night party of the 3 days, it was so special, and I think the venue exceeded even our expectations of how special it was that evening, and the atmosphere was amazing, and it was just a really, really, really special.
But the guests knew there was a problem.
Oh, the guests did.
Yeah, the guests knew because they were.
Of course, there was a change of
venue.
Change of venue, of course, for their invitations.
Yeah, of course, but
of course you've got, because let's put this as it would be. You've then got to change all your pickups, coaches. Taking guests to venues.
All the logistics, the table plans, the powers, the generators, the lighting, all the rigging, everything had been signed off, so we had to redesign everything.
Yeah.
But that's where our experience.
Yeah.
We worked hard for those 7 days.
I bet you did. But the reward for that is
amazing. Just an amazing party.
Yeah.
It was so special.
Laurie, are all event planners the same?
No, we're all different.
Tell me how. Tell me how that works.
I think we've all got different personalities. I think we all view events differently. I think we manage clients differently. I think we all have different, I guess, creative strengths. And I think we all probably look to achieve something different with each of our events as different companies and designers. I'd say that's my
So Stas,
interpretation.
where do you feel like Just 70 stands apart? I think I know where I feel you stand apart, and it's in the title. But where do you think you stand apart from sort of other planners? And I'm not just talking, locally, but what sets you apart, do you think, as a company?
I wouldn't just say it's the creativity. And I think the creativity that we bring to the events is like probably a big part of it. But I think trust. I think clients come to us and they trust us to deliver on their most like important day, whether it's a birthday, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a corporate, and they trust us. And I think that's why we have such a high retention rate of clients, is that when they do trust us, and we do always produce and we always go above and beyond as a company, and mix with the creativity and mix with the team and the individuals that we have, and the personalities within the team, I think that's a really important part of why clients come back to us.
And is there one sort of rule as a business you sort of live by? Is there one sort of ethos, one sort of part of your DNA that you think?
Just above and beyond every time. It's never like, this is the brick wall. If there's a brick wall, we want to go push it. We always want to push boundaries. We always want to do something a little bit more and give the client a little bit more. So I think we always try and go above and beyond.
Clients are generally spending big sums of money behind a house and a car, potentially. These things are, big numbers. What do you do when you get clients that are a bit sticky, difficult, don't see your vision? How do you handle them?
I think it's all about communication. And I think that's probably the key to everything. Probably the key is to communicate, whether it's in person over a coffee, or whether like these days it's over Zoom, or whether it's even on the WhatsApp groups. It's about communicating and understanding what they need, their brief. And I think it's really important to be aligned. You need to be aligned with their vision and then help to produce that vision. So I think it's about clear lines of communication, whether it's being able to like be at the end of the phone constantly for them, or at the end of an email, or like, literally we've got quite a few WhatsApp groups at the moment, which is kind of like the way of communicating with clients, and just being there and being an open channel for them to like pass on their fears and their anxieties over to you, so you can reassure them that everything's going to be fine, or help them with the creative process, whatever it may be. But I think communicating is really important.
Yeah. I would add to that. I'd say, as Stas said, they're vulnerable. They're coming to you at their weakest. They don't do this every week, so they're relying on you to hold their hand and take them through that journey. But once you sort of gain their trust and build momentum, they then relax, and then they start flowing in that sort of flux state.
There is another fabulous job that you sent me to put on the reel, and I think for a very specific reason. So when I show you this image,
Oh yeah, Sea Dream.
now you're laughing like it's the funniest thing in the world, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was at the
No, it
time.
wasn't.
He took that phone call.
So
Tell me about
the Sea Dream.
What was the premise of the job?
So it was a corporate event, and we chartered the whole of the Sea Dream for a week, and there was going to be around 100 people on the yacht for a week.
And where was it cruising?
We were originally going from Nice to Monaco to Corsica, Sardinia, and then back to mainland Italy. And we planned everything with our team, and there was a lunch event taking place each day and an evening event. We had entertainment flying from around the world, venues, hotels, lunches, tenders,
Day trips.
Everything had been organised.
It is a year in planning, 18 months.
It was actually probably about
We came in late.
4 or 5 months.
We came in late.
But it was full on for them 4 or 5 months. We brought a big team in as well. We were all hands on deck for this one, literally. Yeah. And the first party was starting on the Friday night at the client's villa in Nice before it was setting sail to Monaco. And then on the Monday at 1:30, never forget it, get a phone call from one of the agents that we're working with. Are you sitting down? I'm like, I can be. He goes, sit down. He goes, the boat's currently at sea, but it's on fire. The generator's caught fire. I thought it was a joke. And
The boat is burning.
The boat is burning. Go on Google, have a look. So we look up. I think everyone looked at me in the office like, what's happening to Stas? And then we'd had like one of the articulated trucks was already leaving Milton Keynes. I think it was, I don't know if it left the UK yet, but it was on its way to...
With all the equipment in.
With all the equipment and production and props and technical staff and all the gifts for the guests. And it was on its way down to Nice. Fast forward a stressful 24 hours. The Sea Dream, there's a Sea Dream 2, but it does a completely different itinerary. It leaves from Dubrovnik to Montenegro, and then it goes to Sardinia as well, but then it goes to the Amalfi Coast, and then it finishes back off in a different port in Italy. So we team collectively managed to secure Sea Dream 2, but all the guests were already on their way to or planning to be in Nice. So we had to literally bringing an extra team of freelancers. Everyone worked 24 hours a day. And we had to do a whole new itinerary, new entertainment. We couldn't move some of the entertainers because they were going to different days. They had already been booked. We had to find new venues, a new party, new fireworks, new crew. We literally had to design the whole itinerary in 5 days. And I think I remember flying out. It was the first time I remember Laurie and I were flying out on the Friday to France. And we were like, just don't know what we're doing. We've got this huge job. Everyone's coming to Nice.
Basically, there was a runway in front of us, and we had to send another team ahead of us, and so we were blind. So we knew what we were doing up until a certain point, and then the team was ahead on the ground at the new venue in Italy for the finale dinner, and then we were at sea with black spots and no radio communication or phones. And then eventually we were like a few days behind them, caught up. We were like, okay, how are you? Have you done the food tasting? Do you know what you're doing?
And there was a big main party, which was going to be in
By the way, just say I'm actually feeling sick for you, and it was a good couple of years ago, but I mean that's horrific. But experience,
amazing team, really strong individuals around us, people that stepped up and helped to support us. And it was just the final party was in the Amalfi Coast. It was sensational. It was a massive fireworks show.
Tell Gavin about the unloading of the gear at the venue. How they had to unload it in the car.
Oh yeah. So we had an articulated truck arrive to the Amalfi Coast because it wasn't planning to be at the Amalfi Coast. Yeah, it was going to be at a different location. I think in Sardinia from memory. And anyone that's been to Ravenna knows that you can't even drive a car in Ravenna. You can take maybe like a motorbike. So we had to hire a Fiat 500. And an articulated truck, and the guys worked through the night, loading all the flight cases in the back of a Fiat 500, going up and down Ravello to the Palazzo Avino.
I did like 30, 40 trips.
That's just
all
incredible.
Through the night. And I think they all looked at us and were like, we're never doing this again.
Basically, I had to decant everything into the Fiat.
Yeah, and of course, as far as the client's aware, the party's going ahead.
Yeah, we delivered.
You're delivering.
We turned up at the venue for the finale party, and we're walking in, and we're like, let's walk through. Tell us what's going on. Show us. Can we quickly just and literally it was like live. We were just rolling. It was like live TV.
We have questions from Instagram. Each and every episode, the public send in some questions they want answered, and here's some for you. What's one event you will never forget? Well, that sounds like one you just had, but one event you'll never forget for the right reasons.
Is there one? They're all so special. I'm just trying to say, is there one that stands out more than another? I think we just discussed the Sea Dream, and that stands out, but not for the right reasons, more for the
exhaustion.
Well, yeah, just the stress. And
okay.
the pressure.
Kelly Louise asks, where is the best location you've worked abroad and why?
Venice is always interesting.
Love Venice. Venice is always amazing. I was really lucky to work in the Maldives. 2007 actually 2000, I think it was about 2000, maybe 2008, 2009, and there was a team of us on an island, and we'd been working, and it was when the Icelandic volcano erupted. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, of course I do.
And no flights could take off, so we were stranded.
You were stranded in the Maldives?
Stranded on an island for a couple of days.
That sounds terrible.
Playing pool.
Yeah.
Drinking pizzas and wine for a few days till we could get back. So that was great.
How competitive is the pricing of events? Are you always up against the same planners?
No, not always.
Come up against all sorts of people.
All sorts of people, different. The market's really big, so there's always different people, corporate agencies.
And I guess, as you said
different.
earlier, Laurie, it's about looking down the list and seeing what's included, what you're getting bang for your buck.
Yeah, also, are you buying a team of people, or are you buying one person?
Right, yeah.
Are you buying someone who's got 20, 30 years delivering at the top end, or you got someone who's just done one or two events recently and thinks they're a planner? So there's a lot of always new entrants into a market, disruptors.
Yeah. Well, there's also people that spin out like you did. I mean, you
absolutely.
spun yourself out as a pair out
Absolutely.
many years ago, and obviously came with a huge amount of experience, which actually your experience tells in times of adversity. And it's very clear you could cope with that. I'm not sure that everybody could cope with some of those situations. Let's have a look at the next question. Some planners charge a fee, some take commission from suppliers. Do some do both?
I think everyone's different. We charge either a percentage or a fixed fee, and it all depends on on what the client wants. So we're flexible.
Yep.
Every client's got a different budget with us, so it depends what the client wants. But
yeah, flexibility.
We're flexibility, yeah.
And I believe the last one here: how much time in an ideal world would you like to plan a large event?
Ideally, a year in advance to book in all the key things. So ideally, you want to book in the venue and your key suppliers or entertainment. And once you've got them locked in, we then usually pick up a few months later So at least you know that you've got all your key components booked in.
And that's the one thing that's changed since lockdown, it feels like. And hopefully will return.
Absolutely.
That sort of lead time.
Yeah, so that's the lead time. So COVID really disrupted the events and hospitality industry. So the lead times have changed, but I think slowly it will come back. But usually we used to find people would come to us about 12 months before to lock us in, make sure that weekend's free, lock it in the diary, book key suppliers.
If they've worked with us before, they might come back later the next time. But
That's true as well,
I think
actually.
the further out you book, the more choice of suppliers, A-team suppliers, the later you come in the mix, you have less time to dilly-dally on decision-making.
Perfect. Laurie Stas, thank you so much for joining me
thanks
today.
for having
It's
us,
been
mate.
an
Thank you so
absolute
much.
pleasure.
Really enjoyed it.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Secret World of Events, then do give us a like and a subscribe. And also, any comments you want to feed into us, do pop them in the comments below. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Great to have you here.
I had decided I wanted to get into events.
Don't rush into anything.
Left university and pretty much went straight into it.
It's just got to happen. So do what you need to make it happen.
I've never been one to follow rules.
We've spent a lot of time together, haven't we?
have.
Always keeping up with trends and fads.
How do you manage that, the expectations versus the reality of budgeting?
It's always insightful to get a gauge as to what their reference point is with budget.
Pre-COVID, I didn't know what Zoom was.
You know, everything is done to a higher level.
That detail Jeremy and the band and the guys will go into, by definition, makes our life easier.
There's levels and levels, and that comes in the detail.